Well, welcome to this session. I am Dr. Calvin Tibbs, the relationship doctor, and I'm going to do some work to help you in your relationship. Now, you are here in the event you want a couple of three things. Number one, you really want to love and live your and your family your most meaningful mission. And in this case, we're talking about marriage. And when it comes down to it, you can be a single couple or a couple that's trying to get married. You can be a couple that is engaged or a couple who is, in fact, married 15, 20, 30 years or 15 or 30 days. Either way, the goal of this broadcast, of this video, is to help you win. So, what we're going to do is work through some concepts in the principle of championship couples. So buckle up. You're here if you want to win in a relationship. Okay. Let's focus upon the solution that or by way of definition, that we've put out there, that a champion is a person who has defeated or surpassed all rivals in a competition. I'll say that again. You, as a champion in your championship couple relationship, you all work together to defeat or surpass all rivals in a competition. That's very important for a champion. Now, as a couple, you defeat those rivals. That's what a champion does in terms of defeating. That's what you do in terms of being a championship couple. You defeat them, you surpass them. You don't let them ride inside of your vehicle for weeks and months and years. You don't let the foes hang out in your basement and you go down there and smell it because you can tell nothing's been down here in a while, and you just kind of keep living. That's not what a championship couple does. So we're going to focus on some of those items coming up right now. So let's go here and dive in real quickly to get where we're trying to go. We've got to get to a place where we define wins. What is a win for you? That's what we're mainly focusing on today. What is a win for you? We've got to define a win. And what's important is where those wins are going to occur. And I think that every couple, having been married 38 years to my same sweetheart in college, I have found that there are four basic areas. Now, there may be 400, but we're going to focus on four. There are wins in your finances. They must be identified because you may think this way, he or she may think the other way. There are wins inside of your family, mother in laws, father in laws, sisters, sister in laws, brother in laws, and the list goes on there. There are wins in community. These are friends. You got to have some friend wins. And those community engagements incur throughout all over the areas of business and community and so forth outside of your family. And then the final area here, often overlooked, is the spiritual wins. You got to win spiritually. You know, people can act like God doesn't exist if they want to, and they will see the detriment of what happens when God is not sought or acknowledged. Not pushing one thing or another on you, but simply saying to ignore God is a fatal mistake. And if you look back in history, many different generations or cultures found that out. So you got to get to the place where you define the win. So let's take a look at what a win looks like when it comes down to finances. So I'm gonna work with you on a couple of different things so that you have parameters. You can work this out how you want based on your championship couple relationship. But for example, let's deal with a financial win. I don't know whether you are a spender or a saver, basically. I mean, you can launch in every direction from a foundation. So if foundationally you like to spend, that means you like to make money so you can spend it. If foundationally you like to save, then from a foundational standpoint, you like to save first and then move forward. And of course, you can be in the middle there. But what's a win? What's a win for you? What's a win for your spouse? Now that we got that out of the way, what is the championship couples win? What does it look like? It's got to look like what you both agree on, not what you like, not what the spouse likes, what you both can agree on. Because if you cannot agree, one of you is scoring hole in ones and the other is scoring touchdowns. Now, that's wonderful in terms of the notoriety and the cameras and the dance and the claps. But as a couple, as a championship couple, there is no win there Because in football, there are no hole in ones, and in golf, there are no touchdowns. In baseball, there is no slam dunk, and in basketball, there is no home run. So the reality of getting unified, which is really the key ingredient to winning in any area as a championship couple. But in this session, this part two session, we're really talking about whether or not you can, and I know you can, come together to defeat the enemies that are trying to mess with you in your ability to move forward and win, to surpass these rivals, right? We got to get rid of these rivals. And how do you get rid of them? You defeat them, you surpass them. So when it comes down to these wins, it is very important that both of you identify. Don't play golf and your spouse is playing basketball. You can do that in your leisure. Y'all won't be together in the sense of one court is here and the field, if you will, is there, the golf course. But I'm talking about championship couples coming together around a goal to surpass or defeat enemies in the financial arena of your life. One of you may want to be, well off, like $1 million well off or $1 billion well off, and the other spouse is like, look, I just got a savings, I'm cool with that. You can't make the other person want what you want, but I tell you this, until you both come together, you won't get a win, which means you have a great possible relationship with family. When I say family, I'm talking about the two of you first, your life together. If you're married, your love life. If you're single or you're a couple, your celibate life, until you have the covenant relationship. And I know people move into different things and understand that, been there, done that. But in the end, there's no win there unless there is a ring there. We're talking about wins. But when you're putting together, let's just talk about your spiritual life for a minute. And she wants to go to church, and you want to stay at home and watch the preseason game, or you want to watch the lead up to the game. That's not a spiritual win. Why? Because the two are not one in that area. Well, I don't like that church. Then find one that you do like. Well, you are the church, correct, the ecclesia. So for what it's worth, God in you, God in your spouse ought to be enough, except there's an app for that scripture, which says, don't forsake the assembling together, as is the manner of some people who see this day coming. So things are getting kind of crazy out there in the world, and to not see that would indicate that perhaps y'all aren't winning championships on basic levels, okay? Like observation, the world is in a turmoil, is in turmoil. So whether it's physical, whether it's financial, or whether it is community, whether it's family, whether it's spiritual, it doesn't matter. You two have got to define the win, okay? And other people may not think it's a win for you. It doesn't matter about their team in terms of the priority of your team. You have got to define what a win is like. Now, listen, you got to work together on this. This can't be my way or the highway. It can't be how I was raised. In fact, I'm going to go into that here in a minute, because in order for the rivals to be surpassed, we've got to stop remembering the past. We got to stop going back and picking up the wrong clues for things that we know caused us to lose. We got to look at today. What do we want to get done today? Us. It's always us. Remember previous video, us and we, not I and me. Lock that in as a fundamental part of your operation or your game plan, the way you work, because when you do it that way, you position yourself to win a lot more. So wins first have got to be defined before they can be achieved. All right. So let's look at this for a moment. What does a financial win look like for the couple? Okay. Not for you and your ambition, and not for you because you don't really want a lot. The couple, the two of you. What does it look like? Later on, you're going to see that that's a huge takeaway that you've got to take away. You got to work this out. You can't just talk it out. You can't just think it out. It's thoughts, deeds, or thoughts, speech, and actions. The Hebrew letter Hey, very powerful. But the point is, you got to talk it out. You got to walk it out. You got to think it out. What does a financial win look like in your family? What does a spiritual win look like in your family? If it goes undefined, it goes unconquered. the thing trying to stop you from a strong spiritual life together, if it is not defined as an enemy, it will stay around as a friend. So you got to recognize, what are you after? Peace, relationship, spiritual fulfillment, a strong sense of purpose deep down inside. You got to define it. Okay. So we can't achieve until we first believe by defining what we're after. Let's take a look at community. Some people bring their parents with them into the house. Of course they do. But there's a verse for that, there's an app for that. When you leave, you cleave. I'm talking to married couples now. When you leave, you cleave. So, what that means is you're already formed by both of you, husband and wife. You're formed by your parents. You're also formed by their parents. So there are six formations. There's you, your mother and your father, and their mother and father. And when you put that together, it's actually a total of seven. You, your mom and dad, their mom and dad, and their mom and dad. So one, two, three, four, five, six, seven. That's you. So seven people help, and of course, back in the generations too. But I'm saying you are principally genetically formed closer to those seven people, your parents and their parents, whether they knew them or not, whether you knew yours or not. The genetic formation is in place. Therefore, there's a spiritual pass along that is assigned both for and against you. So when two people come together, you're not alone. You're bringing company with you. Sometimes it's called baggage with you. But the goal of the two becoming one is to merge the best of all of these worlds in order for you to win as a championship couple. So the leaving and the cleaving is a part of that process. And what does that look like? What does that look like with everyone else? Are you a divorcee, remarried, and now your spouse or your part of your family is on the West Coast and part of your family is on the East Coast, and you live in the Midwest? What does it look like for you all? Is Thanksgiving in New York, and is Christmas in California, and New Year's in Chicago or in Cleveland, or well, actually, I guess Midwest would be Kansas City. Okay, so whatever that looks like, you all have to define that, because the people who love you on either end want you for themselves because they love you. You as a couple have to determine what a win is. And it's not against them or against them, it's for unity. And there is no unity without understanding what a win is. When you understand what a win is, now you can start making plans to win. Okay, you got to do this across every landscape. Again, you see it there: financial wins, family wins, community wins, and spiritual wins. I'm leaving that up so that you can see it. All right, let's move on to the next phase here, because championship couples, I wrote, unify. Championship couples unify to reduce the risk of failure. Now, in other words, you can hear this and it's like, wow, this is really, really good. And then 3 months go by. What this is intended to do, before you do anything, what this is intended to do is help you reduce the risk of failure. That's what a championship couple does. That's what championship teams do. They play to their strengths, and they are aware of the weaknesses and the strengths of their opponent. Now, if you're a golfer, the team is you and your caddy. Okay, it's not you and your teammate, because golf is a single sport. However, you have a team around you, and then you have an environment around that team. That's the press, that's the people in the stands, or who are standing watching you play. But in the end, everything boils down to you and team. Inside of championship couples, we got to understand that there is a risk for failure. This could not work spiritually, financially, community, and it was the other one. Uh, Spiritually, family, financially, and community. Yeah, it could not work. It could fall apart. Unfortunately, I mean, we talk with couples a lot, and just found out about a couple the other day. Bad, bad, bad. And she's left with two children and a husband who's gone. So what is she going to do? What is the other couple going to do, who were trying to make it, trying to make that thing work, and after 20 plus years, gone? Sometimes it doesn't work. How do you make it work? How do you, as a championship couple, sort of reduce the risk? You do this. You do this, you reduce the risk. You can't make a person do or not do, but you can do. And success leaves clues. So, once again, championship couples unify. The unifying reduces the risk of failure and increases the likelihood of success. So, if you were to ask me in a one on one session here, which I'll give you a few minutes of, how have you done it? Well, let me tell you what I asked a couple. My aunt and uncle from, I don't know, 8, 9, maybe 10 years ago, from the time of this recording. And I went to each of them and I asked, what is, in your estimation, and I asked them separately, the Aunt Esther, and Uncle Al. I asked them separately, Aunt Esther, what's the key to being married? I think at the time they had been married 60 years. And my parents had been married also late 50s before my father passed. So longevity is there, right? It's in the genes, okay? But it also has to be, it has to show up in the decision. So I asked the question just to find out so I could benefit, grow, and help others. And my aunt said, you can't say everything you want to say. It's like, okay, okay. That's very good. Because sometimes he continued on. But the point was, you can't say everything you want to say. All right, so I went over to Uncle Al after Aunt Esther left the room, or I picked Uncle Al up in the other room, whichever. And I said, hey, Uncle Al, I just asked Aunt Esther the same question. What, in your estimation, is the key to marriage? You've been married, 60 years. And he said, you got to keep your mouth shut. Same basic thing. Now, check it out. That's unity. That's a championship couple. They unified around an understanding, a principle, and they were married for 60 years until he passed. And then recently, at the time of this recording, Aunt Esther passed. But they made that thing work. Here you go, with 6 children, all who are awesome, doing well, living, having families, now grandchildren. Their children are having children. It's just the coolest thing, right? So when you put this together, success is leaving clues. So what would I say to you? Well, early on, before when we first got married, my wife and I, my wife Kimberly and I kind of knew that we needed this triangle thing working. Triangle, there you go. Okay. So you got the top of the triangle is God. Because if you remove him, you increase the risk of failure. It's just that simple. On the one side of the triangle is me. On the other side of the bottom of the triangle is my wife. So we're at the bottom, God's at the top. I'm over here, my wife's over there, God's up there. And so my thought was, if we look here a lot, then we're going to get insight to come down from there a lot for each of us. Then with that information, if we go across the bottom of that triangle, right along the bottom here, travel back and forth, delivering what the other person needs. You got to get this, championship couple. You got to get this. If you go along the bottom of that triangle to deliver what the other person needs. Now, here you go. Not what God said, because you've been praying about them doing this thing wrong, and you're going to get this thing right. And so now I'm talking to you. And so let me tell you what he said. Wrong, wrong, wrong. X that out. That's not a championship couple. That's a fake championship couple. They have potential, but they don't really win. Okay. So along the bottom of the triangle, I'm taking things over to my spouse. My spouse is taking things over to me, and back and forth. All needs are met. Absolutely is how this thing goes. When that is the case, you just reduced the risk of failure. Let me tell you what increases the risk. No top of the triangle. Okay, a little bit. It's about right. Somewhere down here. In other words, the strength of how high you go is based upon how high you think. And if that's the case, you and your friends, your girlfriends, your buddies, it's the best you can go. Sister, brother, you got the heavens in terms of capacity. But if you have the earth in terms of your goal, you'll only reach out to those who are closer to what you think. And there are not a lot of great options in a company of few, when you can have a multitude of counsel by going high. And when you go high, you get that. And when you put that together, you increase the risk of success. I hope that's helping. All right, we're in the bottom third here, almost done. I'm going to wrap up with a couple of 3 items, and I really got a whole nother page and a half to go over, but let me tell you how this works. Unity must contend with three environments. Unity, because I said championship couples unify. And what do they unify around? They unify around whatever it is that is considered a win. Championship couples work together so that they reduce the risk of failure and increase the probability of success around wins. And for those wins to work, you got to unify around what those wins are. But wins contend with three environments: your win financially, your win in community, your win spiritually, your win in your family must contend with the past. I didn't say live in it, it must contend with it. Because the past, if it has not been rejected, it is still bringing correction on in accordance with what was. So you got to deal with your unity is going to have to contend with the past. Second thing your unity as a championship couple has to contend with is your present. It's easy to get caught up in what you see right now. It's sometimes easy to act like what you see is not what is. You got to deal with the present. And the third area that your unity has to contend with is the future. You got to look at the future. Where are you going? I know where you've been, I know where you are, but can your unity look into the future without painting the same bleak picture of your past? These are skill sets that we teach about in our coaching program. Let's go to the next one because of time here. Unity must contend or connect with three questions. Okay, so unity has to contend with three environments, and unity has to connect with three questions. And what are those three questions? They're vital to getting unity or unifying as a championship couple. And they start with, why am I here? Why am I here? At the bottom of this triangle, my spouse has to ask the same question: why am I here? Well, if you're married, you got to answer that in accordance with your answer. Why are you here? Number two, what are you supposed to do now that you're here? As a spouse, there are things you should do as a spouse. Very simple. And then the third thing is, how can I improve? How can I improve my part in this team? How can I improve my contribution to this team? Because when you know how to do that and you're working together, you're so close in proximity. Again, on that bottom of that triangle, you're praying for help, you're asking for help, and now you need to interpret that help. So maybe you need to walk along the bottom of the triangle. Let me ask you a question. On a scale of 1 to 10, how well do I fill in the blanks? Don't fight the answer. Don't fight the power, that beat. Well, I think you're a 2. Well, no. Why do you think I'm a 2? I think you're a 2 because of what you do. Well, what do I do? You never, don't use those words. You always, don't use those words. Use words like when you fill in the blanks. Well, there have been times when I've seen fill in the blanks. At that point, the goal is to acknowledge what you heard, because we're talking about environments. That's what you're fighting against. When you hear the information, the next thing that you want to do is ask, if I'm a 2, in your view, how can I become a 3? And you apply that principle to every area where you have this candid conversation, because improvement, folks, is the key, not only to longevity, because my uncle and aunt weren't just saying, I just keep my mouth shut, keep my mouth shut. They had a lot of other things moving forward that progressed them. And so it is, you go to God, you go to the person. You go to God, you go to God, you process, you help the person. That person's doing the same thing. This is a lifestyle. This is what this is. You don't stop that, till you get enough. Michael Jackson, right? So when you put these pieces together, it's like you got to move. You got to keep growing, because that becomes the spice of life. That becomes the key to adapting in behaviors, to adapting in environments. So champions are going to be crowned in these arenas. Will it be you? It's got to be you. And so these fourth items here is spiritual wins, define them. Family wins, define them. Community wins, define them. When it comes down to all of these areas, define for you what a win looks like. She likes to cook, he likes to eat. That's probably a win. Maybe she wants you to clean up. That for her is a win. All right, let's look at another one. He likes to work, she likes to shop. That's a win. Get to winning in the financial area. She likes to go to church, he likes to stay at home. That's a losing formula. Or you can reverse that. So your takeaways in this are, I'm going to keep it at one thing. I want you to talk about wins with your spouse. If boyfriend, girlfriend, deep couple, engaged couple, married couple, talk about wins, not your wins, y'all's wins. Okay. Couple championship wins, championship couple wins. Talk about what a win looks like for the two of you. All right. So when you put these things together, I got some resources for you and I want you to take advantage of them. One of those resources is of joining a free Facebook group. There it is right there at the bottom of the screen. You can click on that and go over there and keep that tab open and you'll be able to go. But the short of it is that you're going to go to Facebook and type in the relationship doctor. When you type that in, then join the free Facebook group. There aren't a lot of stipulations, but there are some stipulations. And you just get inside. All right. So once you're in there, then more community, more conversation, more dialogue can take place inside of those Facebook groups to give you more wins. The second free resource is available in a strategy session. And you have to click on there at the calendly.com /JC Tibbs 2. You click on that, it'll go to a calendar, it'll open up, and we'll have a 35, 40-minute strategy session for you and your family. Because again, if we're looking at a championship couple, you need a championship coach. Michael Jordan had coaches. Every professional at levels have coaches. Today, perhaps they're called mentors. Whether you are in the Bible days, Isaac had Abraham, Jacob had Isaac, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. When you look at that, these patriarchs passed along insight. Today, you have mentors in what's called master classes. You have mentors in books. You have mentors in podcasts, which I need to put up at some point, let you know where you can go and listen as well. But the main thing that I'm after is that you have resources that help you reduce the risk of failure and increase the probability of winning. And unity is the key to every win. Michael Jordan had to find Pippen. Michael Jordan had to find Paxson. Michael Jordan had to find A-Rod. Okay. So all of us need a cast of people. If it's husband and wife, that's a great start. Get unified right there. And then when you have children, get them on board with it. You're going to probably have some family and some friends that go along with that. Again, all information comes ultimately to you, the championship couple, for you to decide. The other resource that I have for you that's free and available is a download at calvintibbs.com. You're going to see a resource there called How to Coach Your Way Out of a Troubled Relationship. And then we added, and purpose deficit disorder. Well, what in the world is purpose deficit disorder? Is pretty much everything we've been talking about. Too much to go into. The resource is free. Take a look at that, download it. It's going to help you to think in the manner that I've been sharing, right? Those environments we talked about and those areas we got to contend with so that you can win. And then finally, a couple of items here I want to go over. If you are a man that is single and you're getting ready to get married, the question is, are you a man made for marriage? And I'm not talking about some mystical thing. I'm talking about, is your thinking aligned with what is necessary for you to lead God's daughter's hand, to take her by the hand and lead her in life? You're inviting her into your own garden. Maybe you're a man that's not made for marriage, and perhaps this survey will help you get ready for marriage when the two of you have conversation about those survey results. Now, this is a gift that I think keeps on giving. You want to give your significant other. Now, if you're married, you don't need to take this so that you can get it. I told you, no. If you're married, you're going to get different resources at some point. But for right now, if you're single or even a couple, I want the man to take the test so that the woman won't cry at night. What this does is it gives you all something to discuss about why you thought that way on that answer, not beating you across the head on what's wrong with you. Is helping to develop what is inside of you so that you can have a championship couple relationship. And then the final thing here is this piece that is kind of underpinning all of this. And you have to go to drtibbs.samcart, drtibbs.samcart.com/products. We're going to get a tiny URL here in a minute once it all gets approved, /Y hyphen R hyphen U hyphen here. Just click on it. It'll take you there. Why are you here? This undergirds purpose, and it is flat out powerful because it talks about elements of everything that I've mentioned. And there are a bunch of free offers that go with it and bundles that come with it to assist you in your process. So I hope all of this helps. And I hope all of this puts together for you how to get a win in your championship couple relationship. Can't wait till we get together the next time on the Relationship Doctor. Have an awesome day. See you soon. Bye.